and the teams can rarely rely on the weather forecast. If something's brewing, it can very quickly turn to rain. Even the cleverest of team strategies then takes a bath. So everyone then has their own particular opinion on the weather.
In den letzten Jahren hat man immer wieder gesehen, dass die Teams...
We've seen over and over again in recent years that even though the teams all have their own meteorologists and weather radar, when push comes to shove, they don't all put their faith in the same forecasts. My personal view is that you also need a certain sense of feel.
Dass das ein bisschen Gefühl dazu gehört.
Wet weather races are always a very special spectacle for the spectators. Exciting duels and a race order that's always changing. New braking points, less grip, slippery curbs. Any idea of routine is simply washed away. For the drivers in their open cockpits, it's much more than just an uncomfortable weekend. Where it gets really tricky, of course, is during the race. Things get really extreme because if it's raining and you're in the pack and there's lots of spray, you can't see anything at all. You don't know where the car in front is, or the one to your right. You know absolutely nothing. You've got to charge through almost blind. Lap times, however, stay firmly in focus. A job for the tires. On a wet track, four-groove slicks don't provide enough grip. Intermediates offer greater negative tread. Wets, however, have even more drainage grooves. And a softer rubber compound provides better grip still. If it starts to rain during a race, the teams know what's needed. Unscheduled pit stops to change the tires. The teams must then also adapt the fueling strategy and set up accordingly.
Between the tyres, the aero balance can change. That's why many times when you see cars changing from dry tyres to wet tyres, you'll see the mechanics adjusting the front wing to change the aero balance to allow for the difference in tyres.
Non-stop rain throughout the entire race is fairly unlikely. The teams therefore keep the dry setup kit at the ready. For as soon as the rain stops, the track starts to dry. The high running temperatures wear down the soft wet weather tires. Speed drops and the strains on the car increase. Correct timing of the tire change is called for once again.
What you gain with a wet setup in the wet is nowhere near how much you would lose using those same settings on a dry track. So generally speaking, from a race engineering strategy point of view, you're actually better off to leave the car very, very close to its dry settings for a wet race, because it won't be wet for the whole time and you will gain more from doing that. You would lose more from having a specific wet setup.
It's totally different in normal road traffic. Here it's a case of one setup for all conditions, tires included. The best possible grip must be assured on both dry and particularly wet surfaces.
This
is achieved with these tires by the fact that they have a very high proportion of negative tread, in other words, lots of grooves, especially these four main ones, through which water is dispersed to the rear. Then there are channels between the grooves and short ones leading outwards that also help to disperse as much water as possible as efficiently as possible. The tire can thus clear away up to 25 liters of water per second. Beware, slippery when wet. Whose grip is the best and the safest? Racing in the rain, a performance of a very special kind.